Hello, Jill Tisbury here at FiredGlass, and I have my coffee, and today we are creating this. This is a homage to serenading cats everywhere. Hi, Jill here again in the studio, and as I said in the intro, this is the piece, well, a piece based on this that we're creating today. We've got a few cats locally, and at the moment they've taken to serenading us at 3 a.m. in the morning, so I thought I'd do a piece just to celebrate that. This was a piece that I did using, I think this is using a Powder Pro. So that's one of these things here. You may have one of them. They use these cartridges, magnetic, so they stick to everything, which usually you have powder in, and then you buzz it and you create this little tree here. Now don't worry if you don't have a Powder Pro, because we've got videos, there's a link up there that you can have a look at, to show you how to create Powder Pros, pieces with Powder Pros. But today I thought we would use stencils, just for those of you who either haven't got one or can't find one. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to put this thing out the way so that we don't break it. Nearly. And we're going to start with a blank piece of glass. So this is a piece of bullseye Tekta. I am going to slump my piece. I'm going to tack fuse it to begin with, and then I'm going to slump my piece on a metal wave mould. I think a wave mould. It might even be an arch mould. I'm not sure yet. But I know that this piece that I've got will fit either of my moulds. So just cut your piece of glass to fit whatever mould you've got, and whatever you decide to do. The pattern will remain the same. It's just obviously how you slump it. So I've got a piece of white paper. I've got two kiln props here, which I always like to use to rest my glass on. And the reason I do that is that when we sift any powder over the top of here, we want to make sure that we go over the edge, and then we can recapture it when we obviously go over the edge if we go onto paper. So what I'm going to do is create a really dark sky, actually. So I'm going to use deep cobalt blue, and that would be significant of maybe the morning just before the sun's got up on a summer's day, or a lovely dusky evening. But that deep cobalt blue is what is used on the piece that I just showed you. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to put my mask on as well. So let's just get this without knocking everything else off. Okay, so I've got my mask. I'm going to move my coffee out the way as well. So let's put that over there. Never a good mixture. And I've got one of these strainers. You can use whichever sifter you use. You've got the red ones that you can normally get from glass shops. These are available from glass shops. They're also available in any hardware store, because they're actually a tea strainer. So what I want to do is a lovely, even, reasonably thick layer, because I want a nice colour on this. Reasonably thick layer. I'm going to go sort of down into a dip here. Let's get some more and then move this away, and you'll be able to see exactly what I've done. Oh, my mask, my glasses are steaming up now. So this is the, what is this? 0147. So 0 denotes that it's an opal. 147 is the colour. You need this about half full. So this is deep cobalt. Normal cobalt, slightly lighter than this. So if you want it to be this lovely, luscious, deep blue, look for deep cobalt. Okay, So you can see I've created a sort of dipped horizon because I want a few hills. Let's get rid of all of that out of there. I'm just going to put a couple of these here for a second. Bit of green there. And then you can just recover that back into the pot. Let's move that out of the way because I'm done with that now. These are those fantastic lids that never seem to match the pot. You just have to be careful when you use those that you haven't got them half on, so that half of them fall off. So I want some distant hills here, and for that I'm using 0131, which is Artichoke. So again, 0 denotes that it's an opal. I'm going to have that here. So I'm using this sifter. This is a micro sifter with a medium mesh. Can you hear that? So that's me pushing hard with that spring against this screw here. Let's move that out of the way. And that creates that vibration so that you can create your field. The reason I'm using you can also tap it, by the way. It just doesn't give you such an even coverage when you do that. But to be honest, that's not such of a worry for this, because this field I want to look as though it's a ploughed field. So I'm going to put some furrows in that. I prefer doing it this way, so I'm going to carry on doing it this way. There we go. Get rid of that. Now if you want to tidy that up, you can use a colour shaper to tidy it up. I don't really need to, but I do want to put some furrows in this. So if you look at the other one, I'll just grab that back. Cameraman's so versatile. But if you see that, I don't know if you can see that, I've put my hand behind it. All I've done there is put some ridges on that. There you go, you can see the detail of it. I'll pop that back over there. And the way I've put the ridges on there is with this. So all I'm doing is just gently with that straight side. If I could see what I was doing, it'd be even better. There we go. Put a few more closer together. And perhaps that went round the corner like that. Who knows? So I'm going to get a colour shaper and I'm just going to tidy this bottom edge because I want that to go a bit further up there. Just tap it in place with my finger. There we go. And that's fine, we're okay with that bit there. So that's going to be my ploughed field. The next thing I'm going to do is use a mixture of spring green and light Aventurine green. So there's hardly any of that artichoke, so that's fine. So this is light Aventurine green, 1412. I'm just going to put, I'm just going to get this tiny bit out of here with this so you can see what's going on here. You just want to make sure that this is not going to go all the way over that lovely ploughed field that I've just done. And so this helps me to just pinpoint that. and it also allows me to put a thicker layer at the back of this. There we go. Actually, I don't want any more than that on there, so I'm going to get rid of that. So that was my 1412. They're all 08 because 08 denotes that it's a powder. And this is spring green. And I'm going heavily over this bottom bit and not so much. You see, I'm going a little bit higher to give myself, it's a bit like using an airbrush. If anybody's ever used an airbrush before, the further away you go, the more diffuse the spray. So it's a little bit like that. The higher you go, the further it sort of falls outwards. And what that does, when you do it with this, let's get a bit more of that. I think I need to refill that from my big bottle. Yeah, what that does when you're closer here is give you a thicker coverage, thinner coverage there, and that's created a gradient for you, so that'll be really pretty once we've done that. So let's put this back in the bottle. Looks like I'm going to get a tiny bit of Aventurine green with that as well. It's my own silly fault. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so let's put this away. That's all good. Move these back over here, and this is the dodgy bit. So we said we weren't going to use a Powder Pro. Now, to be honest, if you've got a Powder Pro, it's probably safest option to use if you want to create a tree on here. I wanted to do this for the lots of people that we've had who comment on the videos, which is absolutely lovely, who say, haven't got a Powder Pro, or where could I get a Powder Pro from? And if you haven't managed to find one, then I thought I'd show you how to do this with a stencil. So this at the moment is resting on kiln props. Now, what I want to do, if you can see this, I want to have a space between these cups that I've put upside down here. Let's just get these around here. I want to have a space between the cups and here, but I don't want too much of a space, because what I'm going to do is use this to help rest my stencil on it, and then I want to sift the powder through it. Now, if I have too much of a space, when the powder goes through it, it's going to disperse. So I want to lift this up. So just find anything you can. I just happen to have 3 bits of Tekta, so this is 3 bits of coloured glass that I've got. I'm just going to pop that on there. And you can see what's happened here. I've now got probably about 3 mil in between the cups and the surface. I don't know whether I want that or whether I actually want it slightly less than that, really. Let's have a look. It might be better now that I've got powder on it. So I'm going to put these here. I'm going to get myself ready with my powder. So remember, only half full. This is black, so this is 0100. I'm going to keep hold of that. Let's put this to one side, and then you can see properly what's happening over here. So it's not quite easy to do, but if we just rest that on there for a second, what you want to try and do, you see I've tapped that already. If you do that, it's not the end of the world, because you're going to put stuff down here anyway. Just hold that there, and what it's doing It's just making sure that you don't go right on the surface. So be brave. Get yourself a nice tap. And then lift off, and make sure you lift off onto paper, well, as far as you can. You can see it's a bit more diffuse, maybe it's blown about in the wind, so it's not as defined as if you do a powder pro, but that's absolutely fine. It will still work for you. And then the next bit I want to do is with my cats. Now I can hold these because it's quite a stiff, compared to this one, which is quite flimsy. Let's get that powder off, there we go. So that's quite flimsy, as you can see, whereas this is a much stiffer, what do you call it?
Material.
Perspex? Yeah, material. Thank you. It's a good job you're here, isn't it? So what I want to do is make sure that this is roughly in line with one of the branches, because I want this, I'm only going to do the cat bit, I don't want the little butterflies on there. And I'm going to use, wherever my little there we go, I'm going to use this to do it. So I'm going to go down the bottom there, I'm going to get as close as I can. There we go. And there's my two little cats on there. Now, the thing about this, oh, I can't see here. The thing about this is that there might be some bits that you want to strengthen, like the tip of that ear, and also where their tails have entwined. I just want to strengthen that. And if you want to add sort of more branches, you can do. If you want to strengthen some of these branches and make them look less sort of fuzzy, you can do. I'll just tap that back down. So there you go. You've now got cats sitting on a tree. The other ones that I did were black, one black cat and one sort of tabby cat, but we're quite happy with that. That'll look fine. Let me just tidy up this black and then we'll move on to the next step. So I've got powder everywhere here. Let's just get rid of these, tidy them up. Get rid of my glass stilts. It's always useful to have a big paintbrush around so you can get rid of all of the stuff on there. Always tidy as you go, because you obviously will end up with a mishmash of colours. And it's expensive stuff at the end of the day. So you want to make sure you recover that. Get this. Now that we've managed to spill it. Lovely. So that was the black. Whew. Pop this back down here. Get all this out of the way. Woohoo! I'll remove the mask. Core, these masks drive me up the wall. They make my nose run. Okay, so quick slurp of coffee and we're good to go. So for the next bit, I'm actually going to use some spring green frit. So this is opal fine frit, so 0126, which is the same as the spring green powder that we used, but this time you notice it's got an 01 against it. 01 means fine frit, 02 means medium frit, 03 means coarse frit, and 08, as we know, means powder. So these are the leaves that are on this tree. I've decided it's springtime. So let's have a look. They're little clumps of leaves that we put on here. So you can see why we're not too worried about those branches being a bit fuzzy. So that's fine for that. I'm just going to use a little bit of this as well. So this is confetti glass that I've crushed up, and I've used two colours here. This one is cranberry pink, so it's cranberry pink 1311, and this one is royal purple, deep royal purple, which is 1128. So those are the two that you can see there. They look like this. Ooh. So that you can't see much until you put it against white paper, but once you put it against white paper, that's the cranberry. Beautiful colour. Got a bit that's stuck there. And that's the deep royal purple. So all I've done is taken those and I've crushed them up in there using this. So these are really useful. The little we use these for our airbrush painting as well. Just for mixing colour, but I like them for mixing glass. So pop your finger over or your hand over the top. Give it a good old crush. There's something really satisfying about doing this. This is an old glass cutter that came with a microwave kiln. Never use it except for crushing glass. There we go, that's great. So now I've got a little mixture, my own little mixture of cranberry and deep royal purple, and we're going to use that on here, just a little tap every now and again, and the dark ones just add the shadow, the light ones add the highlight, and those are some sort of spring blossom that we've got on there. I'm going to keep a bit aside. So that's really nice. So this is quite a sort of dusky looking piece really. So that's my confetti glass. Keep this stuff to one side. Now I'm gonna, there we go. Let's have a look what we got over here. So this is all my sort of if it's pot. If it's left on the paper after you've done a piece, shove it in here. So this is, well, I don't know what you call it. I call it my meadow mix, but this is coarse meadow mix. I don't know if you can just see that. That's all sorts of splinters, tiny bits of glass that have fractured off, all sorts of things, really mixed colours, and I use it as a meadow mix. So sprinkle it down here. Once you've put some grass in place. This is the same with the confetti glass. So this is confetti glass we're going to use in a minute, but this is the smallest version of it, so it's like a medium mix, and we'll use that like frit. Oop, pop those over there. And then these are my stringers. So we've got some normal stringers which I'll grab in a second, but these are all the bits from the bottom of the tin where you think, oh, they're too short. Pieces like this, they're ideal for. So it doesn't really matter what colours you go for. Maybe this is just all grassy here, but effectively all we're doing is we're creating a sort of grassy type meadow underneath, like we do on a lot of our meadow scene pieces, but I just wanted to add this interest of the cats in here. Or maybe that's a bit that's gone a bit wonky, maybe it's growing sort of wild. Don't forget these all need to crisscross because they're never ever gonna all grow straight like soldiers. I don't want too many straight bits like that because most stems are curved, which is why we like to create stringers like this. And the stringers that we pull, which you probably all know by now that we pull our own, are nice and curvy for the most part, and they're different diameters. But we like the thin ones. Like a few thicker ones in there, but we like the thin ones, so that we can put some delicate bits in here. So nearly there, creating a lovely meadow grass bit going up into the trees. Call the stories I come up with when I create these things. Nearly finished. If you want some longer bits, this is a small box of stringers, you should see the big one that we've got down there. But if you want some longer bits, need to go to our proper stringer box and maybe create some bits out of here. So maybe these are over here a little bit, just to add a bit more interest into the sky. We'll do this. I put less down here because of course we've got the tree, so we've got the interest of the tree in the actual composition, so I don't really want to take away from that. I do want a few grasses, but not too many. I think we'll put one more big stringer over this side. Here's a nice one. Oh, that's a nice one. That's got an interesting base bit to it, so let's use that. So things always look good in uneven numbers, so I think that's fine. Let's get rid of our stringer box. Marvellous. And I think we are fine, so we're done with stringers. Let's just get rid of these out of the way. Move these into the pot. Put these all back in here. And then I'll put a few of the pieces of confetti glass, which is this stuff. Again, these are normally available on our website, so you have to have a quick look and see. They do go very quickly because I think people are very creative with this stuff. They love using this stuff. There might be a couple left on there at the moment, but we'll be no doubt pulling more green stringers, in which case we'll have some more green confetti. Again, I don't want too much of this, but I do want stuff to add a little bit of interest. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Let's put these back on the shelf, and time to put some flowers on. So the first thing I want to do is put the murine flowers on, and then I'll fill in with our little sort of frit type things that we've got here. So on the piece that we did, I used some quite dusky flowers. So this is a new one that we did a little while ago. This is a favourite that everybody seems to like. What else have I got there? Let's do some Tangerine Dream. There we are. So we've got 3 murine here that we're going to use. So the first one that we're going to use is this one. So this is persimmon. This is a lovely, the way this comes out is really, really nice. I'm going to tack fuse this as well. So it'll come out similar, and the nice sunset coral I think's in this. So the sunset coral that gets picked up in this will match nicely with that fuchsia or cranberry, isn't it? So these are the persimmons. We've got lots of different sizes, and depending on where you are in the pull, whoa. You don't want them on their side, you want them face up so that you can see the pattern. Depending on where you are in the pull, you'll either get this, I don't know if our camera's going to get that close, but you can see that you'll either get that kind of pattern with a lot of the centre in, which is a spring green centre, or you'll get that where it's almost run out. So you get almost like 2 or 3 different styles in one, which is really nice. Gives you a lovely natural mix. So I like these a lot. It's one of my favourites to do. So when you're thinking about the colours, because it's meant to be either dusk or dawn here, you want some sort of almost muted colours, and then maybe a couple of things that are going to, you know, give you that highlight. So that's lovely. I think I might be finished as we go. That's persimmon done, so we're happy with that. Let's put him away. I'm going to do the blue ones first. So these are our periwinkles. I really like periwinkles. Let's have a few of these down here, see if we can find. So you either get where you've got that almost run out, so you've got a tiny little yellow centre. There's a lot of clear around that, with tiny little bits of blue, which are great because you can still use them to look like buds. So that's fine. I've got some tiny ones here. Pop those on. And I'm using quite a few because I want this to look quite rich, like it's, you know, bursting out all over with spring buds and things. And this periwinkle's nice. It uses obviously periwinkle blue in there, which is a lovely colour. We like that a lot. And the fact that we've got some tiny ones means that we can use them as little tiny bud flowers in there. Lovely. A few more down there. I think we're happy with them. So let's put these back. And then I want something, you always usually want something to make your pieces pop. So because I've used blue, I'm going to use the opposite colour, and as soon as you start using the opposite of any colour, it's a bit like home furnishings. You only need a tiny bit, but it just lifts the whole thing. So that's why we're going to use Tangerine Dream. So this is nice. I probably don't want too much of this, but I do want the odd 1 or 2 in and around just to lift it. And you can see it makes a big difference as soon as you put something that's opposite. you've got this focal point. So I don't want them to be too massive, but I will put a couple of big ones in. And again, depends where you are in the pool with this. You can see some white coming through, you can see some of them where it's just orange. Really lovely. So we like that a lot. I think we'll have a couple more down here. Just lost in between some little tiny ones. Ooh, happy with that. That's those. And then the last thing to do is to just do our little infill bits, because when you look at this here all the way along the bottom, it looks like our grass is floating. I don't want it floating. I just want to make sure that we've got grounded undergrowth. So this is, you can either crush up a little bit of your Vitrigraph confetti if you've got any. If you haven't got any, then you can use probably a little mixture of I would probably say spring green and Aventurine green, light Aventurine green frit. So as long as you've got either a medium or a fine, if you've got something that is coarser than that, it's probably going to look a bit too coarse for this. But you can see that it just fills in those little gaps. Looks like you've got weeds growing around the bottom of the tree, so your tree's not just appeared from nowhere. Ooh. Nearly. That's the last thing you want to do, isn't it? To knock your piece off the top of there. And then I'm probably going to put a little bit of this in. Don't know what that is. Sounds like somebody's got one of those hovercraft things out the back. We're actually near an airfield here, an old airfield, so sometimes you get microlights that come quite low. So if you're hearing something in the background, that's what you're hearing. Okay. So that was my meadow mix that just gave you maybe a hint every now and again of little meadow flowers that were peeking through. And then this just is perhaps a bit of fallen blossom from the tree. It's that cranberry mix again that we've got there. There we go. So I'll put that all over there, and it's a lovely, lovely mixture. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. I'm just going to tap that down a little bit. There we go. And that's our little singing cats in the tree. So I'm going to tack fuse this. So the schedule's coming up for you to see. Once that's tack fused, I'm then going to slump it on a curve, and here's the finished piece. I hope you like that. I hope that inspires you to maybe look at the things around you and take some inspiration from it. It'd be great to see what you do. So don't forget you can comment. Also don't forget that you can subscribe to our channel, and you can hit the little bell icon which will tell you when the next videos are available. So yeah, tell us what you think. Thank you very much for subscribing. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to post on our Facebook page to show us the things that you do as well. Cheers. Take care. See you next time. Bye.